careers disappear. This proposed 18% cut in NIH funding would cost the SUNY Health Science Centers at Stony Brook, downstate, and upstate a combined $21 million. Thank you. Nationwide, research funded by the NIH supports 380,000 high-tech jobs and $65 billion in economic activity. So science not only innovates and educates, it's an economic driver in our communities.
Yes! Yes!
Right. So we can't let scientific breakthroughs that are underway be derailed by the proposed federal funding cuts. So we must fight for continued federal support for climate change, research, and alternative energy technology developments. We can't accept the proposed 31% reduction in the EPA's budget and reductions for climate change and programs across the State Department, Interior Department, and other federal agencies.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure Congress rejects our legislative proposals to remove the use of federal funds to support research on racial disparities and disparities in access to affordable housing as well.
Yeah.
So we stand together to support science as a method to ensure that our health, food, air, water, animal habitats, climate, and complex web of life that is our Earth will be protected for us and future generations. So we're here today to shed light on that science takes places in our laboratories and out in the field. We are here today so that everyone in our communities can see the many ways science has impacted their lives. And this Earth Day March is the beginning of a new day that brings scientists and the general public together to celebrate and advance the science we need to sustain our lives and our planet. Yes. And again, I want to call attention to the website. So please go there today and tell Congress that you need to support the federal funding for science. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Richard. Okay, now I know it's cold out here, so I want to lead us all in a little chant before we move on and introduce the next speaker. Are we ready for that? Yeah. Okay, so this one's not the easiest chant. So let's see how we do. Okay, so when I say what do we want, you're gonna say evidence-based policy. Okay? Then when I say and when do we want it, you're gonna say after peer review. Okay, are we ready? Okay, what do we want?
Evidence-based policy.
And when do we want it?
After peer review.
Once again, what do we want?
Evidence-based policy.
And when do we want it?
After peer review.
Yes! All right. That was beautiful. Okay. Now next up, we have Dr. Jamie Sue Bodenlos, who grew up in Pittsburgh, completed her BS in psychology from the University of Pittsburgh, got her PhD in clinical psychology from Louisiana State University, completed an internship at the Medical University of South Carolina before accepting a postdoctoral research fellowship in preventive and behavioral medicine at the University of Massachusetts Medical School in Worcester. She is now an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at Hobart and William Smith Colleges in Geneva, where she has been teaching courses in clinical and health psychology. She has over 40 scientific publications in the area of obesity, mindfulness, eating behaviors, and health. She is also a licensed psychologist and does clinical work in the greater Syracuse community where she resides. Please welcome Dr. Jamie Sue Bodenlos.
First of all, I want to thank you, the great people of Central New York, for coming out today to this great event. As you just heard, I'm a clinical psychologist. I am trained in the assessment and treatment of psychological disorders such as depression, anxiety disorders, substance use disorders, eating disorders. These disorders are more common than you think. So I want you to raise your hand if you know someone who has a psychological disorder. Now keep your hands raised. Keep your hands raised and look around. Look at all the people who have their hands raised.
He's the president.
This is true. Research indicates that 1 in 5 adults will be diagnosed with a psychological disorder in their lifetime. That's about 20% of the population. These are not rare. They are not things that happen to other people. They affect all of us. Psychological disorders are behaviors, emotions, and thoughts that cause a person distress. They affect your relationships with your family and friends. They affect your ability to go to work, to be productive, to go to school, to perform well at school. As you can see, these symptoms don't just impact the individual. They impact the family, friends, and the environments in which they live. I want you to imagine that today you woke up and you had no desire to get out of bed. You felt extremely tired, hopeless, sad. You spent the day crying. Imagine that you felt worthless, as if nothing you did was any good. Maybe these thoughts and feelings have stopped you from hanging out with family, friends, from doing the things that you enjoy. Maybe it's gotten so bad that you don't want to leave the house. Maybe you've even stopped bathing. Perhaps it's even gotten to the point where you don't any longer feel like living. This is an example of what an episode of depression can feel like. What is particularly concerning is that we're seeing the rates of depression and anxiety disorders soaring among our youth. In 2015, an estimated 3 million teenagers in the United States had an episode of depression in the past year. That's 12.5% of U.S. teenagers. And that rate is higher among females. When we look at something like anxiety disorders, 25% of U.S. teenagers will have an anxiety disorder at some point in their lifetime. 1 in 4 teenagers. That's your son, your daughter, your friend, your niece, your nephew, your grandchild. Your godson. Scientists are trying to understand why are these rates increasing in this population. Science is absolutely critical to the field of clinical psychology. Science helps us understand what these disorders are, how long a disorder will last, what we can predict in terms of functioning. Science helps us understand the causes of disorders. Is it a certain gene that's causing this disorder? Is it something that's going on in the environment? Important, science helps us figure out how to help these individuals who have psychological disorders. There are things called evidence-based treatments or empirically supported treatments. These are treatments that have been found by large research studies and supported with scientific evidence to reduce the symptoms of psychological disorders and increase the quality of people's lives. These are the treatments we want to continue to develop for those affected with psychological disorders. And over here we have a sign. I think there's a sign. And if you go to this website, you can figure out what the evidence-based treatments are for various psychological disorders. I'm sure my time is up now, but I want to leave you with one final thought. If you or a loved one experienced the symptoms I mentioned before, you felt hopeless, debilitated by your psychological symptoms, your thoughts and emotions, would you be interested in knowing what science says about your psychological condition? Would you be interested in knowing what science says about your prognosis, what you can expect in terms of your functioning? And would you want a treatment that science has been found to be effective? I know I would, and this is why we must all stand for science. Thank you. All
right, thank you, Jamie. Okay, next up, we have Dr. Don Hughes. This is a chemistry lab manager, an instructor in environmental chemistry from Lemoyne College, who received his PhD in chemistry from SUNY ESF. He is also taught nearby at SUNY Cortland and back at ESF. He now specializes in understanding the movement of trace chemicals through aquatic systems, while also finding time to do consulting as an environmental chemist and engineer. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Don Hughes.
All right. Thank you very much. And turn this down. I'd like to get a little more forwards. Okay. All right. Well, happy Earth Day, everybody. Glad to see you all out here. Okay. Thank you. So you may be surprised to learn, I'm going to talk to you about anti-science. I'm going to talk about the absence of science. I'm going to talk to you about anti-science. You may be surprised to learn that there are some people out there who believe that humans are not responsible for climate change. And I quote, here's a quote, "There's no scientific consensus on the human role in climate change." Those are the words of Joseph Bast, president of the Heartland Institute. Mr. Bast also claims that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, is, quote, "not a credible source of science or economics." So there you have it. We have nothing to worry about. Be happy, come on. Except we do actually have something to worry about. Human-induced climate change is very real, and it is profoundly affecting just about every aspect of life on our beautiful green planet. But there are those, like Joseph Bast, who would have you believe otherwise. His organization is the Heartland Institute. It has been spreading misinformation about climate change for over 20 years. Their mission is to, quote, "promote public policy based on individual liberty, limited government, and free markets." It is not a scientific enterprise in any way, shape, or form. Yet, it pretends to be a resource for scientific information about climate change. So you may ask, well, why should we care? Scientists can go about their business of careful research and analysis, debating the finer points of climate models and the robustness of their data sets. But science does not exist in a vacuum. It is part of our society. As you heard, science contributes to our well-being. It needs funding also. It needs objective forums for disseminating results. It must serve the greater purpose of helping society, improving technologies, better medicines, and improving our understanding of our natural environment. Organizations like the Heartland Institute aim to replace real science with fake science. And unfortunately, they reach a wide audience. According to their website, nearly 1 out of 2 state elected officials say a Heartland publication has influenced their opinions or led to a change in public policy. So, this book has just come out. It's called, and I'll hold it up so you can actually see it. I do this in class all the time. Students complain. I don't know why. Why scientists disagree about global warming? This organization is sending this book to every science teacher in the country. Every science teacher in the country.
Propaganda.
This book is dangerous because it makes suggestions shrouded in the guise of scientific language. Here's one. At the current level of 400 ppm, we still live in a carbon dioxide starved world. Atmospheric levels 15 times higher greater existed during the Cambrian period, which was a while back, 550 million years ago, if you like the numbers, without, here's the quote, without known adverse effects. Well, Isn't that good to know? Now, for those of you who are not up on your geologic eras, here's a little primer. The Cambrian period predates mammals, birds, dinosaurs, fish, amphibians, all land-based plants, and insects. Evolution, if you believe in that sort of thing, had gotten as far as producing creatures called trilobites. So trilobites were these little hard case things, kind of like cockroaches, that lived on the seafloor. They were a great invention at the time. So if you are a trilobite, then all this extra carbon dioxide that's going into the atmosphere is going to be really great for you and your family. But for the rest of us, it's going to be a disaster. Why? Because the rate of change in the composition of the atmosphere is happening in the geological blink of an eye. And most life forms, including us, cannot possibly adapt. We are at risk, despite all of our cleverness. The book makes dangerous assertions that are categorically false. It acknowledges that the Earth has warmed, but goes on to assert that, quote, global warming ceased around the end of the 20th century and was followed by 19 years of stable temperatures. No, actually, global temperature records have been set every year for the past 10 years. Temperature is going up. I don't think that's news. It also claims that a 2 degrees Celsius temperature increase, if it should occur, falls within the bounds of natural variability and would overall not be harmful to the global environment or to human well-being. In reality, we know better. We are already seeing dramatic changes in the environment, including major die-offs of the coral reefs, melting sea ice threatening the entire Arctic ecosystem, rising sea levels, which are threatening and have inundated coastal cities, alteration of plant habitat, bird and fish migration, movement of tropical disease northward, intensified droughts in the Sahel, bizarre weather patterns just about everywhere. In short, this organization, among others, is pumping out fake science, and they are doing so with millions of dollars of funding from the fossil fuel industry and others seeking to maintain the status quo with respect to energy policy. Hint, hint, the Koch brothers. So, if you're a science teacher, I urge you to do one of two things with this book. You could throw it out, you could burn it, use it to light your fire in your fireplace to help heat your house, because it is fraudulent. Or, better yet, use this book to illustrate to your students that any subject, including science, can be distorted. Urge them to think critically, evaluate the facts, and follow the money. We should reach out to all the teachers, all of us. Reach out, help them understand that climate change is real and that the next generation deserves to know the truth. As late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan said famously on the Senate floor, you are entitled to have your own opinion, but you are not entitled to have your own facts. Truth is power, use it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Don. That was great. Okay, next up, we have Dr. Lisa Manning. Okay, Dr. Manning is a physics professor and award-winning interdisciplinary scientist studying the mechanical properties of biological tissues and the failure of disordered materials. Her work on biological tissues can give us insight into embryonic development, wound healing, and cancer, while her work to understand disordered solids can help us to predict flow and failure in materials from glasses to earthquake faults. As an NSF Career Awardee and a Cottrell Scholar, she has also developed innovative programs to help recruit and retain a diverse group of scientists in the STEM fields. Her work is funded by the NSF, NIH, Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, the Research Corporation for Scientific Advancement, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, and the Simons Foundation. She lives in Syracuse, New York with her husband and 2 children. Please welcome Dr. Lisa Manning.
All right. Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here today. It's amazing to see all of you out here in the cold. Thank you. It's great to see some of my friends and my neighbors. So you're all my neighbors. I live here in Syracuse over by Nottingham High School. Hi kids, hello. Hi Rosie. All right. And so I am a physics professor at Syracuse University, but I work with a lot of different scientists doing lots of different things. Biologists, people in medical schools. And I wanted to tell you just a moment about why I love science, and then I'll go on from there. So I love science because I love understanding more about the world, right? That's our goal. We want to understand more about the world, and we want to help people, right? Those are the things that I care about, okay? And that's the things that people who do work in my group care about, right? Our research focuses on several different things, but just to give you an idea, we work on the mechanics of materials, so how things break or fail, and that can lead to new structural materials and design of devices. We also work on biophysics, so we're interested in how cells move around in the body, and our work is directly applicable to things like congenital disease. We've worked with people who work with patients who have asthma and trying to help that, right? We work with people on wound healing, so if people who get injured and really need to heal, how that process works. Basic science. We work on cancer, so I'm involved in some work where we're studying samples from patients, human patients with cervical and breast cancer. And our goal is to better understand these diseases fundamentally and help find treatments for them and help better analyze them, right? That's exactly the sort of stuff we care about, all right? And so when I think of these ideas, some of those things are immediately fundable, right? Some of those things we can get companies to support, but some of them are long-term things, right? Things that take a really long time to come to fruition, but if we don't do the basic work now, we're never going to get to that treatment, right? And so when I think about that sort of thing, that's where it's absolutely critical. We need federal funding in order to do these long-term things, right? Companies won't fund some of that work.